Hey everyone! Today we will be talking about refusing routine requests and refusing claims. Because at some point, everyone in business will have to say no to something. So, depending on who your audience is, you may choose to use the direct or the indirect method when you're delivering your answers. But if you have any doubt or you don't know the receiver, then you should use the indirect method. And the writing plan you can see here on the screen. So this writing plan can be used in all of the refusals of requests or claims. So you always have a buffer, the reasons, the bad news, and the closing. So you can see that we don't even know that the message is negative until we're almost done reading what the other person has wrote. So the buffer. You want to start with a neutral statement on which both the reader and the writer can agree to something, such as a compliment to the person or the organization, showing appreciation, a quick review of the facts, or maybe even an apology. Try to include a key idea or a word that will act as a transaction to your reasons. Then we present the reasons. So you have to present valid reasons for your refusal. And try to avoid words that will create a negative tone in the writing. Include resale or sales promotion material if it's appropriate, depending on what you're refusing or who you're refusing. So again, staying on that positive side. Then we have the bad news, but it needs to be delivered softly. So you can soften the blow by de-emphasizing the bad news. By, for example, using the passive voice, or accentuating the positive things, or implying that you refuse. You could suggest a compromise, an alternative, or a substitute if it's possible. The alternative may be a part of the bad news, or the alternative could be included in your closing. And then, of course, we have the closing, where you need to renew those good feelings and close with a positive statement. Avoid referring to the bad news. And it's almost like that call to action. You're looking forward to continued business with this person or with this company. So this is a negative message. These are bad news. You're refusing something. But following this structure, you can see that it seems positive. And this is why people can misunderstand Canadian business writing sometimes, especially in a negative context. So this style of writing is something that is very important to understand and achieve if you want to be successful here in business. All right. So saying no to requests from outsiders. So people not within the company. Later in this lecture, we will look at refusing internal requests, but this is external requests right now. So requests for contributions to a charity are probably the most common requests your company or business will receive from the outside. So this happens all the time, and your company may be asked for a donation or a contribution of money, time, equipment, or even just support. And although the causes might be very worthy and you do maybe personally support them, the resources may be limited at the company and you're not able to give what they are requesting. So a company would be best to refuse a request for a charity donation in a letter where the indirect strategy is followed. The letter would begin with a buffer, of course, and an acknowledgement of the request, giving praise about the good works of the charity and using those words as a transition to move into the second paragraph. In the second paragraph, the writer needs to explain why they cannot donate by revealing the refusal without actually saying it. All right. So for example, you could say, because of sales declines and organizational downsizing, we're forced to take a much harder look at funding requests that we received this year. So This gentle refusal makes it unnecessary, actually, to be more blunt in stating the denial. So if you received this, they're saying, we have to look at our budget. We're not interested. But they didn't come out and directly say, we can't support you or we're not able to. So you can see that the indirect method can cause some problems sometimes. In some donation refusal letters, the reasons may not be fully explained. For example, although we can't provide financial support at this time, we all unanimously agree that the symphony orchestra contributes so much to the community. The emphasis is on the symphony's attributes rather than on the explanation for the refusal. So this is a de-emphasizing technique. So if you were required to write, if you are going to be even potentially required to write frequent refusals, then you might even prepare a form letter, because they'll pretty much follow those same 4 steps every time, and then you could just change a few variables as needed. All right, let's look at an example. Okay, so this is a refusal for a donation request for a charity. So of course we always have the company letterhead and the date and all of the information about who you're writing to. Okay. Dear Ms. Brown, we appreciate your letter describing the good work your Montgomery County chapter of the National Reyes Syndrome Foundation is doing in preventing and treating this serious affliction. Your organization is to be commended for its significant achievements resulting from the efforts of dedicated members. Wow, that sounds so nice. Okay, this is good. Let's keep reading. Supporting the good work of your organization and others, although unrelated to our business, is a luxury that we have enjoyed in the past years. Because of sales declines and organizational downsizing, we're forced to take a much harder look at funding requests that we received this year. We feel that we must focus our charitable contributions on areas that relate directly to our business. Okay, there's the refusal. Did you get it? If not, reread it or rewind the video to hear it again. We are hopeful that the worst days are behind us and that we will be able to renew our support for worthwhile projects like yours next year. Sincerely, Paul Rosenberg. Okay, so it ended really positively. They said, hey, you know what? Reach out to us next year and maybe we can reconnect and support your charity again. All right. So breaking bad news to customers, not requests. Well, it can be requests, but it's not charitable requests. So businesses, of course, must occasionally respond to a disappointed customer. And sometimes your company will be at fault, in which case an apology is generally in order. But at other times the problem is with the orders that you can't fill or claims that you must refuse or credit you need to deny. Messages with bad news for customers generally follow the same pattern as the other negative messages. Customer letters, though, differ in one major way. They usually include sales or resales promotional information. So all companies occasionally have to disappoint their customers. Merchandise may not be delivered on time, a product fails to perform as it was expected, service is deficient, charges are erroneous, or the customers are just misunderstood, or they misunderstood something about the delivery times or whatever. All businesses offering products or services must sometimes deal with these situations that cause unhappiness to their customers. So whenever possible, these problems should be dealt with immediately and personally. So a majority of business professionals strive to control the damage and resolve such problems in the following ways. You can call the individual. You could describe the problem and apologize in a letter or email. You could explain why the problem even occurred and what you're going to do to resolve it and how you will prevent it from happening again. Or you could follow with a letter that documents the phone call and promotes goodwill. So I'm sure most of you have experienced this, especially if you've been in Canada for a little while. where if you've called to complain about something or emailed to complain, they often call you to apologize or deal with the problem, or and certainly follow up with an email after the phone call. So dealing with problems immediately is very important in resolving conflict and retaining goodwill of your customers, because if you don't, they will leave. And then not only will they leave and you lose their business, but they will say bad things about your company and you will lose future business of other people. So written correspondence is generally too slow for problems that actually demand immediate attention, but written messages are important when personal contact is impossible, so you can't call them. When you need to establish a record of the incident, of course, you need a paper trail, so writing an email or something would be appropriate. And to formally confirm follow-up procedures, so if you call them and you need to do something else, you can email them to, again, get a paper trail of written confirmation of the procedures. And you can do this to promote good relations. So maybe you're emailing them a coupon to get 10% off their next purchase at your store, which is something you can't give them over the phone. So here's an example of a bad news follow-up letter. All right. Dear Ms. Ranier, you have every right to expect complete confidentiality in your transactions with an independent consultant. As I explained in yesterday's telephone call, I am distressed that you were called by a salesperson from Payroll Services Incorporated. This should not have happened, and I apologize to you again for inadvertently mentioning your company's name in a conversation with a potential vendor, Payroll Services. Okay, so what happened? What's going on here? So it looks like this Angela Ranier met with an independent consultant about something financial, and this consultant mentioned the company name to somebody else, and the somebody else called the company. So all clients of Richfield Consulting may be sure that we handle all their dealings in the strictest confidence. Because your company's payroll needs are so individual, and because you have so many contract workers, I had to explain how your employees differed from those of other companies. The name of your company, however, should never have been mentioned. So this person sounds like they're apologizing, right? They've done something wrong and they're trying to maintain the relationship with their customer. I can assure you that it will not happen again. I have informed Payroll Services that it had no authorization to call you directly, and its actions have forced me to reconsider using their services from my future clients. A number of other payroll services offer excellent programs. I'm sure that we can find the perfect partner to enable you to outsource your payroll responsibilities, thus allowing your company to focus its financial and human resources on its core business. Okay, so we're on the upswing again, right? They're trying to make it positive. They're trying to renew goodwill and maintain relations. I look forward to our next appointment when you may choose from a number of excellent payroll outsourcing firms. Sincerely, Maurice. How would you feel if you received that letter after a company had done something that made you upset? Would you feel reassured that they were going to do their best for you now? Do you feel more confident in the company because they said they will now reconsider using payroll services in the future because they breached confidentiality? Okay, let's look at denying claims. So customers, of course, occasionally want something that they are not entitled to, or something that you can't give them. So they may misunderstand warranties or just make unreasonable demands. Because these customers are often unhappy with a product or a service, they are emotionally involved. So letters that say no to emotionally involved receivers will probably be your absolute most challenging communication tasks. Fortunately, the reasons before refusals plan helps you be empathetic and artful in breaking bad news. Obviously, in denial letters, you'll need to adopt the proper tone. You don't want to blame the customer even if they are at fault, and you need to avoid use statements that sound preachy, like you would have known that cash refunds are impossible if you had read your contract. Use neutral, objective language to explain why the claim must be refused, and consider offering resale information to rebuild the customer's confidence in your products or the organization. Okay, so let's look at an example together. All right. Dear Mr. Tyson, you're right, Mr. Tyson. We do take pride in selling the finest products at rock bottom prices. The Bose speakers you purchased last month are premier concert hall speakers. They're the only ones we present in our catalog because they are the best. Okay. We have such confidence in our products and prices that we offer the price matching policy you mentioned in your letter of February 15th. That policy guarantees a refund of the price difference if you see one of your purchases offered at a lower price for 30 days after the purchase. To qualify for that refund, customers are asked to send us an advertisement or verifiable proof of the product price and model. As our catalog states, this price matching policy applies only to exact models with USA warranties. Our Bose AM52 speakers sell for $740. You sent us a local advertisement showing a price for $508 for Bose speakers. This advertisement, however, describes an earlier version of the Bose AM4 model. The AM5 speakers you received have a wider dynamic range and smoother frequency response than the AM4 model. Naturally, the improved model you purchased costs a little more than the older AM4 model that the local advertisement describes. Your speakers have a new 3-chamber bass module that virtually eliminates harmonic distortion. Finally, your speakers are 20% more compact than the AM4 model. Okay, so this is a great paragraph describing the differences, and this is where they're giving their reasons, right? They're saying we have to refuse your request because you're asking for something we can't provide. You're asking about an older version of something that you've purchased, and these are the differences. This is why your model is worth it, right? So they're justifying or giving reasons that $740 is worth it for the AM5 model. You bought the finest compact speakers on the market, Mr. Tyson. If you haven't installed them yet, then you may be interested in ceiling mounts shown in the enclosed catalog on page 48. For the most up-to-date prices and product information, please see our online catalog at our prize-winning website. We value your business and invite your continued comparison shopping. So, in the end, they're trying to sell him something else and thanking him for being a pain in their butt and asking for a price match. All right. How about refusing credit? So, as much as companies want business, they can extend credit only when payment is likely to follow. So credit applications from individuals or businesses are generally approved or disapproved on the basis of the applicant's credit history. So this record is supplied by a credit reporting agency such as Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. And after reviewing the applicant's record, a credit manager applies the organization's guidelines and then will approve or disapprove the application. If you must deny credit to prospective customers, then you have 4 goals when you are conveying your refusal. You need to avoid language that will cause hard feelings. You need to retain customers on a cash basis. You need to prepare for possible future credit without refusing false expectations. And avoid disclosures that could cause a lawsuit. Now, because credit applications are likely to continue, credit applicants are likely to continue to do business with an organization even if they are refused or denied. You will want to do everything possible to encourage their further patronage. Thus, you need to keep the refusal respectful, sensitive, and upbeat. So a letter to a customer denying their credit application might begin as follows. We genuinely appreciate your application, or genuinely appreciate your application of January 12th for a Fashion Express credit account. So to avoid possible litigation, many companies will offer no explanation for the reason that they refuse someone. Instead, they will just provide the name of the credit reporting agency and suggest that inquiries be made directly to them. So they take the onus off of them and say, listen, talk to these people. This is who we checked with. If you have issues, you can call them. So in the following example, notice, I don't have an example. Okay, so here what follows is an example of use of the passive voice, where someone cannot extend credit to an applicant, and there's a very long sentence that will de-emphasize the bad news. So, after we received a report of your current credit record from Experian, it is apparent that credit cannot be extended at this time. To learn more about your record, you may call an Experian credit counselor at this number. So a cordial closing will look forward to the possibility of a future reapplication. So for example, thank you, Miss Love, for the confidence that you have shown in Fashion Express. We invite you to continue shopping at our stores, and we look forward to your reapplication in the future. All right, now we're going to briefly look at ethics and the indirect strategy. So you may be worried that the indirect organizational strategy is unethical or manipulative because the writer deliberately delays the main idea and sometimes goes around it. They don't directly tell you that they're actually refusing it. You have to read into it. You have to understand the writing style to know that it's a refusal. But you need to consider the alternative. Breaking bad news bluntly can cause pain and hard feelings and lose customers. By delaying the bad news, you soften the blow a bit, as well as ensure that your reasoning will be read, while the receiver is still receptive. So in using the indirect strategy, your motives are not to deceive the reader or to hide your news. Rather, your goal is really to be compassionate but an effective communicator of your message. So the key to ethical communication lies in the motives of the sender. Unethical communicators do intend to deceive people. Although the indirect strategy provides a setting in which to announce bad news, it should not be used to avoid it or misrepresent the truth. When faced with delivering bad news, you have a choice. You can announce it immediately, or you can delay it by presenting a buffer and your reasons first. Many business communicators really do prefer this indirect strategy, and it tends to preserve goodwill with customers. In some instances, however, the direct strategy may be effective in delivering your bad news. Okay, let's look at refusing employee and internal requests. So, breaking bad news to employees. A tactful tone and a reasons-first approach help preserve friendly relations with customers. And these same techniques are useful when you are delivering bad news to employees. Bad news to employees might include increased healthcare costs, reduced benefits, downsizing, or even a hiring freeze or no more overtime. It might involve telling people about declining profits, lost contracts, harmful lawsuits, public relations controversies, or anything else that could be negative. You can also retain employee goodwill by explaining logically the reasons for this bad news and by using the techniques that you've learned previously to soften the blow. When routine bad news must be delivered to employees, management may want to deliver the news personally. That's always a good idea. With large groups, however, a face-to-face presentation is generally impossible, so instead the organizations will deliver bad news through a printed memo. More effective than an email, memos can achieve a formal, serious, and professional tone, as well as provide a permanent record of the message. All right, so let's look at the writing plans for announcing bad news to your employees. The following writing plan will help you soften the blow, soften the news that you have for your employees. Okay, so as always, we have our wonderful buffer, our reasons, our bad news, and our closing. So in the buffer, you're going to open with a neutral or a positive statement that transitions to the reasons for the bad news. Consider mentioning the best news first. So providing, again, a compliment, appreciation, agreement, or showing some facts. Show understanding that you get it, right? You can connect with these people. Then we go into our reasons, and you explain the logic behind the bad news. So you provide a rational explanation using positive words and displaying empathy. If it's possible, mention reader benefits. Bad news. Position the bad news so that it doesn't stand out. So you want to be positive, but you don't want to sugarcoat the bad news. You need to use objective language. And in your closing, you can provide information about an alternative if one exists. If appropriate, describe what will happen next. Look forward positively, right? Positive, positive, positive. All right, refusing internal requests. So just as managers have to refuse requests from the outside, they also refuse requests from you. So in the next letter, you'll see there's a message responding to a request from a manager, Mark Stevenson. He wants permission to attend a conference. However, he cannot attend because the timing is bad, and he must be present at a budget planning meeting or several meetings scheduled for the same time. Normally, this matter would be discussed in person, okay? So normally your boss might call you in and tell you in person about the issue or that you can't go. But Mark's been traveling around and he hasn't been in the office recently, so they decided to write to him. Now, the buffer also includes the date of the meeting and is used strategically to connect the reasons that follow. The middle paragraph provides reasons for the refusal. Now, notice when we go through it that these reasons focus on the positive elements. Mark is a specialist. The company relies on him, and everyone will benefit if he passes up the conference. Maybe not him, but everyone in the company. In this section, it becomes obvious that the request will be refused, and the writer is not forced to say no. Although the refusal is implied, the reader will get the message. So then we will come to the closing. And the closing suggests a qualified alternative. It also ends positively with gratitude for his contributions to the organization and with another compliment. He says, "You're a valuable player." Notice that the improved version focuses on explanations and praise rather than the refusal and giving apologies. The success of this message depends on attention to the entire writing process, not just using the buffer or scattering around a few compliments. All right, let's take a look. Okay, this is like an email form because we have our subject, to, from, date, and subject. So this is a request to attend the September conference. The Management Council and I are extremely pleased with the leadership that you've provided in setting up live video transmission to our regional offices. Because of your genuine professional commitment, Mark, I can understand your desire to attend the conference of the Telecommunications Specialists of America, September 23rd to 28th in Atlanta. Okay, so far very, very positive. We're giving him compliments, we're telling him he's awesome, the company appreciates him, and they understand why he wants to go. The last 2 weeks in September have been set aside for budget planning. As you and I know, we've only scratched the surface of our teleconferencing projects for the next 5 years. Since you are the specialist and we rely heavily on your expertise, we need you here for those planning sessions. If you're able to attend a similar conference in the spring, and if our workload permits, then we will try to send you then. That's good. You're a valuable player, Mark, and I'm grateful that you are on our MIS team. Okay, so they refused, but it seemed kind of nice. You've come out of the refusal feeling good about yourself, really. They're saying, you're a valuable player. You're an expert. We rely heavily on you. We need you. All positive things to make him feel like, okay, I can't go, but the company really needs me and I am valuable. And they even suggest that if he could go to something similar in the future, they would try to send him. So that's good too, because that will make him feel like they're not just refusing him absolutely, that he has a chance to go in the future, but it's just bad timing. All right, so that is all for today and refusing requests and claims, internal and externally. If there was anything you would like to review, you can rewatch the video lecture or check it out on Moodle. I'll see you later.